Sid's sacred golden chair, polished by centuries of blood, prayer, and deceit. A throne that did not forget. It welcomed kings, but it devoured them too. Still, he longed for it, not because it gave him purpose, but because it demanded submission, not of him, of everyone else. For years he had tasted power in whispers and crumbs. As the son who plotted against his father, as the prisoner who bowed before Napoleon, as the symbol used and discarded by every political faction in Europe. But now he would no longer be used. He would use. The carriage slowed, trumpets flared, horses reared, and soldiers snapped into place. The cathedral bells rang out as if heaven itself were clapping. And yet, inside the carriage, nothing moved. He simply stared, unblinking, unforgiving. They waited for a savior. Let them kneel to a god instead. And so the gates opened. The crowd roared, and El Deseado, the desired one, stepped into the sun, not as a redeemer, but as a shadow returned to reclaim its shape. They longed for a savior. He longed for submission. At the heart of the royal palace, far beyond the courts and corridors, there is a chamber no one speaks of. Not because it is sacred, but because it is profane. Because behind its doors, power is no longer glorious. It sweats, it groans, it begs. The hour is late. Outside, the capital sleeps beneath its delusions. A nation convinced that the king has returned to restore order. But in this room, truth lies bare and bloated. On the bed lies a body, not of a man, not quite of a king, but of something in between. Pale, wheezing, wrapped in royal linen, soaked in stale breath and sour sweat. Ferdinand VII, once El Deseado, now a creature of appetite and illness. His chest heaves like a bellows. His teeth, blackened, cracked, chatter not from cold, but from effort. And beside him, two servants work with trembling hands, not on robes, not on medals, but on a contraption forged in quiet shame. A brace of brass and leather, designed to hoist what no longer rises on its own. The device creaks into place. Ferdinand groans, not in pain, but in anticipation. His eyes flutter open, bloodshot and ravenous. At the door, a girl stands frozen, no older than 16, skin pale, lips pressed into silence, hands clasped as if in prayer, though no god answers here. She was chosen, not for her beauty, not for her bloodline, but for her quietness, her obedience. The king sees her and grins, or perhaps his lips just part. A twitch, a convulsion masked as pleasure. Through shattered breath, he rasps, "A king must fulfill his duty, even from a dying body." The phrase hovers in the room like smoke, heavy, rancid, unforgivable. No one speaks, not the guards, not the physician standing just outside the curtain, because all of them know this is not a moment of desire. It is ritual, a grotesque sacrament, a crown demanding proof of virility, even when the throne itself rots from the inside out. The girl does not step forward. She is led by hands that shake, by a silence that screams. The door shuts behind her. No lock clicks. It doesn't need to. She is not here by force, but by a force more cruel. The weight of expectation, of tradition, of a kingdom terrified of royal impotence. Inside, the candlelight dances on old portraits. Past kings with swords, with saints, with sons. But Ferdinand has no sons, only sweat, and a machine that lifts what flesh will not. Somewhere deep beneath the bed frame, a mouse scurries. Even vermin know when to run. Outside that chamber, history will say, Ferdinand the Restorer, Ferdinand the Beloved, Ferdinand the father of Isabella. But no page will speak of the girl. No statue will remember her tears. No hymn will recall how the king clutched at breath and groin in the same moment, trying to prove he was still a man, while his body whispered otherwise. The crown still glittered, but beneath it, nothing rose but the stench of denial. There are rooms built to impress, and there are rooms built to deceive. The royal court of Ferdinand VII was both. A cathedral of velvet and mirrors, where history was not remembered. It was staged. That day, the chamber brimmed with polished shoes and desperate hearts. Advisors, judges, priests, generals. Men of station, but not of certainty. Men who had tasted the edge of revolution and now begged the old king to soften. "Restore the Constitution of 1812, they pleaded. "The people remember it. They need a symbol. They need stability." But Ferdinand did not hear pleas. He heard challenges. He heard blasphemy wrapped in legal prose. Slowly he stood, not like a monarch ascending, but like a corpse reanimated by rage. He raised his cane, ivory-capped, gold-threaded, and struck it once against the marble floor. The sound echoed like judgment. "I answer only to God," he spat, "not to parliaments." The words clanged through the room as if they were iron shackles being reforged. Some looked to the floor, some to the saints on painted ceilings. None dared meet his gaze, because they knew he didn't mean God. He meant power, naked, cold, unshared. Moments later, the king disappeared from the chamber. No fanfare, no announcement. He simply left. And they followed the scent of incense to find him, kneeling beneath the golden virgin in his private chapel. The same man who had just denied a nation its voice was now weeping, loud, deliberate sobs, in front of a statue that had not moved in 400 years. The Virgin Mary stared downward, arms open, expression fixed in divine indifference. Perhaps even she was tired of watching. Ferdinand clutched his rosary as if it could absolve not his sins, but his contradictions. He rocked gently, muttered prayers in Latin, as if syllables could rewrite history. And then, the soft click of heels. A maid entered, young, silent, carrying fresh wax. She moved with reverence, as if afraid to disturb not the king, but the performance. As she leaned to place a candle at the altar's base, his hands slid from beads to flesh. Not in haste, not in accident, but in ritual. A grip that said, "You are mine, even here, even now, even in the shadow of saints." The maid did not flinch. She did not cry. She simply finished her task and walked away, like someone trained to ignore the fire burning beneath the altar. Ferdinand remained kneeling, tears now gone, voice steady once more. The prayer resumed. In that court, truth was a whisper drowned by ceremony. In that chapel, grace was a mask worn by hunger. And on that man, a holy robe, soaked in sweat and sin. There comes a moment in every reign, not written in laws, not carved in stone, but etched in the flesh. A moment when the throne no longer answers to the mind, but to the body. And the body begins to revolt. They wheeled him in just before sunrise. The king, the shadow of El Deseado, swaddled in silk, slumped in a chair too ornate for what it was now used for. The air was thick with musk and medicine, a pungent blend of lavender oil and human waste. Royalty distilled. His legs, once marched beneath banners, were now two purple stumps, bloated, rigid, drained of command. Veins bulged like cracked porcelain. His breath came in whistles, wet, wheezing, irregular. A king not speaking but leaking. And yet, he still wore a crown, not upon his head but around his presence. The room bowed not from reverence but out of obligation, and the hope that the smell would pass more quickly. A servant knelt beside him, young, careful, trained. She knew the steps. Unfasten the robe, cleanse the folds, clear the waist. But the moment her hand trembled, just slightly he noticed, his eyes flared open, bloodshot, yellow-ringed, ancient and burning. Not with pain, but with insult. And then, the shriek, not of a man, but of a beast cornered by its own reflection. "Execution!" he spat, foaming, rasping. "At once!" Silence. Then chaos. The guards didn't move. They didn't want to. But they did. Because even a dying king still commands death. The girl barely had time to scream. And when it was done, when her blood painted the white marble beneath the throne-shaped commode, he slumped back, satisfied. Not soothed, but reassured. He was still feared, still obeyed, still king. But even the marble flinched. Even the chamber pot seemed ashamed. In the corner, the royal physician stood, silent until now. A man who had treated soldiers in war, plague victims in alleys, and yet had never seen a man cling to delusion so tightly. He approached the throne and whispered, low and steady, like reading a death sentence from behind the veil of civility. "Majesty, the body is rejecting you." No echo followed the words, only the soft drip of blood, and the stench of what royalty becomes when dignity is no longer an option. Ferdinand didn't answer. He couldn't. His mouth hung open slightly. not in awe but in slow collapse. His hands twitched, not with power, but with tremor, a ghost rattling its own chains. And as the physician stepped back, the king's eyes fell to the floor, to the red smear